Dear Mark, first of all, I want to thank you, Shanto, and all of your contributors for putting on a great show every week. Living here in the gun-banned Democratic People's Republic of New York can get discouraging, but it's good to know that there are enough people across the country that share my viewpoints on the right to keep and bear arms. There are more of us in New York that agree with you than the mainstream media would like you to believe, and I make it a point to tell my pro-gun friends and family about your program any chance I get. I listen on podcast and WKAL out of Rome, New York. We love the station up there in Rome. I also wanted to ask you why you don't mention New York more often when you talk of gun ban utopias. I often hear you mention Illinois, Connecticut, Maryland, Washington, and Colorado, but rarely have I heard you mention us. The laws here are much more repressive than what you've mentioned in Colorado or Connecticut. Universal background checks were one part of the SAFE Act that didn't get much press. Neither was the part that all ammunition sales must be done face-to-face. No mail order or online sales unless you have them shipped to a registered seller of ammunition, quote-unquote, and pick it up in person. And the buyer must undergo a background check for ammo. Add to this that all ammunition purchases are logged and tracked by the state police, and if you buy more than a certain quantity of ammo in a certain period of time, the state won't say what the threshold quantity or period of time is. They will notify your local police that you've made a high-quantity purchase and place you on a watch list. Funny thing is, the law only permits FFLs to charge $10 to facilitate a private transfer of a firearm when it costs them at least $20 to run a NICS check, and they're not required by the law to facilitate the transfers. When Cuomo passed the law, he thought Eric Withholder and DOJ would let him use NICS for the ammunition background checks, but they told him no. So now he's spending taxpayer dollars to build a separate NYS, New York State database to perform the background checks and track all ammunition purchases. It's not up and running yet, so that you can still buy ammo without a background check or having it tracked. The ban on mail order and online sales is already in effect, though. In order to get a handgun in New York, upstate New York City is a totally different animal. You must first apply for a pistol permit. The Sullivan Act allows for every county licensing officer outside of New York City, the county Supreme Court judge is the licensing officer, to set up their own permit schemes as long as they include the state form. As I said before, every one of the New York's 62 counties is slightly different. Some counties require training courses. Some will only issue premises permits. You keep your guns at home only. Others issue hunting and target shooting only permits. Neither of these permit concealed carry. It is up to whoever the county court judge is and whether he is pro-gun or anti-gun. New York is a may-issue state. Some counties don't even publish the forms online. You have to go to them and get a paper application. There is no mandatory deadline for issuing one, so they can take as long as they like. I've seen it take over a year to get a permit approved. In my case, I was first issued a hunting and target shooting only permit, but after taking an additional training course, I was allowed to upgrade to full concealed carry. This process must be completed before you can even possess a handgun. It is a felony in New York to possess an unregistered handgun. The charge is criminal possession of a weapon, third degree. That is why you hear so many horror stories of out-of-state people being arrested for criminal possession of a weapon here in New York just for having a gun that is legal in their home state, similar to Shaneen Allen's story in New Jersey. New York does not recognize any other state carry permit, considers FOPO, which is the Firearm Owners Protection Act, I'll explain that in a moment, an affirmative defense, which means you will be arrested first and have to prove that you are protected by FOPA to a judge at trial, and only begrudgingly acknowledges the Law Enforcement Officers Safety Act for allowing peace officers from other states who choose to carry here. There was a case not long ago out of New York City where they tried to jam up a constable from Pennsylvania, but he was saved by the federal law. In short, unless you have a New York pistol permit or a badge, do not bring your handguns to or through New York. Just to rub salt in the wound, after you complete the arduous process of getting a New York State pistol permit, it is valid everywhere in New York State except New York City. This means if you have a permit from Nassau or Suffolk counties out on Long Island, you are essentially trapped there. Thankfully, I do not. So if you decide to carry your New York State legal handgun into the 5 boroughs, you can still be arrested by NYPD and charged with a felony. The Sullivan Act does provide a way for you to get your New York State permit validated by New York City, making it legal to carry there, but that process is also may issue and performed by the New York City Police Commissioner's Office. I have never heard of anyone that has an upstate-issued NYS pistol permit that was validated by New York City that wasn't politically connected, a billionaire, or a celebrity. It is also revocable. and amendable at any time for any reason. So if you are lucky enough to live in a county with a pro-gun judge that issues concealed carry permits, and he is followed by an anti-gun judge, the new judge can change your permit to a premises or hunting and target shooting only permit whenever he or she wants, or revoke it altogether. In the latter case, your handguns would then be seized by the sheriff's office or state police. Some counties require that if you move to another county, you must transfer your carry permit to that county. Then you will be subject to the whims of your new county's judge. I know people that have lived in one county with a full concealed carry permit, then moved to another and had it restricted to hunting and target shooting only for no other reason than the judge in the new county doesn't issue concealed carry permits. Other counties allow you to keep your permit registered with them if you move out, but in order to add or remove guns from your pistol permit, you must go through their office, which means appearing in person. This can be annoying if you move across the state, but worth it if your new county is more anti-gun than your previous one. Though all of these conditions are subject to the whims of the sitting judge. An election or retirement could bring in a new judge that can change the rules however he or she sees fit. Your only recourse, if any of this happens, is to get a lawyer and go to court. Amazingly enough, the New York State Court of Appeals did recently rule that non-residents can apply for a pistol permit. Unfortunately, aside from the case in the lawsuit, I have not heard of any other permits being issued to non-residents since. Once you have your permit, you can begin acquiring handguns. In order to purchase a handgun in New York, you must, 1, go to the seller, select the guns you want, and agree to purchase the guns. 2, you cannot take possession of the gun right away. The seller gives you a receipt with the make, model, and serial number of the gun, as well as their contact information. 3, you take the receipt to the county sheriff and county clerk or county court judge. Every county is slightly different. In my county, it's the clerk, and they add the gun to your pistol permit. All handguns in New York must be registered. Some counties make you make an appointment to see the person in charge of this. Mine does, and it may take a week or more. 4, you pay a fee of $3 per gun, and the person in charge above issues you a purchase coupon for each gun that you must take back to the seller. This authorizes you to finally take possession of the handgun. The seller then has to fill out his portion of the coupon and mail it back to the county. This is all just a basic overview of what it's like to own handguns in New York. Long guns outside of New York City do not have to be registered unless they are one of the evil assault weapons that were purchased before Cuomo banned them. You can't buy them here anymore, and you only have to go through the NICS check to buy them, long guns, including private sales, transfers, thanks again to Cuomo. As I said, this is all just the rules for upstate. New York City is completely off the rails. Here are their applications for a pistol permit and a long gun permit. All guns in New York City are required to be registered. He then provides the links for the New York City pistol permit and the New York City long gun permit and says, almost makes Rahm Emanuel look pro-gun. That is from Robert in Kirkville, New York. Billionaire, obnoxious blowhard, former New York City mayor, Michael Bloomberg, founder of the latest unconstitutional end run around the Second Amendment and the legislative process in this nation to take your Second Amendment rights from you, made the following statement. Cities need to get guns out of the hands of persons who are male, minority, and between the ages of 15 and 25. Did you hear that? Michael Bloomberg said cities need to get guns out of the hands of persons who are male, minority, and between the ages of 15 and 25, claiming that 95% of all murders fall into this category and that taking guns away from them will not only reduce crime, but will keep them alive. Quoting now from the Fox News piece, Bloomberg said male minorities from the ages of 15 to 25 do not have a good outlook on life and think they're going to get killed anyway because all their friends are getting killed. He also said having a gun is a joke for them, that it's a joke to pull the trigger. I wonder when the media will call Michael Bloomberg a racist for those statements.
This question is for Governor Cuomo and only Governor Cuomo. How exactly is disarming the law-abiding making New York State safer? How? Just so you understand, there's a lot of hurdles and hoops you got to jump through just to try to carry a sidearm to protect yourselves from the Shane Hardings of the world. In the state of New York, you need to acquire a purchase permit before you're anywhere near being able to buy the handgun. You have to pay all fees associated with that. You have to purchase a permit for each gun that you buy, because that's what's used in the New York registration scheme. In Rensselaer County, where these 3 victims are from, this is how hard it is to get a concealed carry permit. You have to file a non-refundable $124.25 fee in order to get the process moving. This is a may-issue state, and even the most honest, trustworthy, and law-abiding citizen can be rejected for no other reason other than the issuing authority doesn't believe in giving you one. You need 4 character references. Now, that by itself is not the most infringing aspect until you get to the sub-requirements. The references need to fill out a series of applications and have them notarized as well, which is more money, and then return them to the sheriff's office. That's a whole lot of hassle to get 4 friends to do for you on your behalf in New York State. On top of that hassle, these references must fall into a very narrow criteria. They must live in either Rensselaer County or a county that borders Rensselaer. You must have known them for a minimum of 5 years. They must be 21 years old and not related to you. Residents of other states are also not acceptable. For anybody who moves into the county from another county, unless it's the one bordering the county, that eliminates everybody moving into Rensselaer County for at least 5 years. They have to sit there for 5 years before they can apply. Then you have to take a pistol safety course, which is more money. I'm not against training, but mandated training in order to exercise your constitutional right. You know, we could bring back poll taxes and literacy tests in order to vote while we're at it. When all is said and done, you have inconvenienced 4 friends, paid over $200 and taken it off a day of work in order to go down to the sheriff's office. When all that is done, and they can still simply say no, and they aren't required to give you any reason. While you're out both the time and money and still disarmed when a serial rapist comes to kidnap you and take you to God knows where. SAFE Act is working exactly the way it's intended. Harding's victims don't think they're safe. Then again, gun control has nothing to do with safety and everything to do with controlling and behavioral altering. Not the criminals, but the law-abiding populace. But in New York State, the buffet is served. Lunch is on Andrew Cuomo. Thank you, Governor Cuomo. This is Lock and Load. There's a guy out of New York who's getting ready to go to jail. His name is Michael Grimm. As of right now, it's U.S. Representative Michael Grimm. He's a Republican, a New York Republican. Now, you may have seen this on TV, okay? And I'm saying this because this is a Republican, okay? I'm not against Republicans. I'm really not against Democrats. I'm against individuals. This is an individual that I'm against. This is a guy that used to be in law enforcement. He used to be with the FBI. And he had a lot of allegations about corruption against him, which he's been found guilty of now. He's been found guilty of felony tax evasion. He was being questioned by New York One Washington reporter Michael Scotto. And Representative Grimm threatened to throw this reporter off the balcony last January for asking him a question about corruption allegations. He said, "Let me be clear to you," and there's video to this. "If you ever do that to me again, I'll throw you off this expletive-deleted balcony. You're not man enough. I'll break you in half." This is the drawback to most media people. Is most media people are, they're media people. There's very few of them that practice anything when it comes to self-defense. And so this guy was probably petrified of Mr. Grimm. Later, after he realized he'd been caught dead to rights, Mr. Grimm, of course, did apologize. But the reason I'm bringing this up is that Grimm is a gun grabber. He's one of the rare Republican gun grabbers, and it has everything to do with where he's from. After Newtown, he got on the "I want to make America safer for the children" bandwagon when he was calling for the renewing a national ban on assault weapons as part of the healing process. I don't know who he thought would be healed, because there is no justice for somebody that loses a loved one. There is never any justice. There's never any making it right. You can have this guy convicted. You can follow him all the way down to death row. When he's executed, you can be there watching. You can be in front of him, looking him in the eye. And when you leave out of there, you still will be without your loved one. So this is for the healing. No, it isn't. There is no healing on this. You just have to come to grips with it. That's the very best you can hope to do. So here we have a guy who abused the fact that he used to be in law enforcement, threatening a journalist, quote-unquote journalist, and aligning himself with people like Chuck Schumer and Dianne Frankenstein. This is the same Republican Party in New York that did nothing for Rob Astorino against Mario Cuomo, along with Mario's buddy, Chris Christie. Let's never forget what Chris Christie did in New York, shall we? Or what he didn't do. I wish I'd been the interviewer of Representative Grimm, because I'm a lot bigger than he is. I am a lot bigger than he is. He's He's law enforcement. That's probably, I don't know what he did in the FBI. Not every one of these guys are Krav Maga specialists. And I'd be willing to toss those, I'd be willing to roll those dice with him. I'm not impressed with the bully. I wouldn't be going gently over the good balcony.
The tyrants did it. Hitler took the guns. Stalin took the guns. Mao took the guns. Fidel Castro took the guns. Hugo Chavez took the guns. And I'm here to tell you, 1776 will commence again if you try to take our firearms. Doesn't matter how many lemmings you get out there on the street begging for them to have their guns taken. We will not relinquish them. Do you understand? And that's why you're going to fail, and the establishment knows no matter how much propaganda, the Republic will rise again when you attempt to take our guns.